Saudi Cup, hello and welcome to question and answer time with Victor Black. In today's video, Ed Macbeth asked me whether I thought it was practical for a 52-year-old male to add a reasonable amount of mass to his frame. In other words, the question is there a point where you're simply too old to add mass? Great question, Ed. Thank you very much for asking. My opinion is like so many things in this business, it's very much down to the individual. Let's set aside genetics for the time being because genetics is such an individualized issue and talk about bigger picture conceptual here. So firstly, I think what would be very important to understand is where the individual is at in his training career. Most people understand the premise that when you're first starting out, acquiring progress is a very easy thing to do. The first couple of years, the gains come pretty thick and fast, and really, I would be saying, well, where are you in your career? If you're 20 years in, 30 years in, that's definitely going to be more difficult to progress than someone that's just starting out that's 50. I do know of mature bodybuilders, over 50-year-old bodybuilders, that literally did not start training until they were in their late 40s. So, the concept of, newbie gains is not something that's limited to someone who's 18 to 25 years old. It happens at all age groups. The second thing that I would question would be injuries. Most people that have been training for a long time, unfortunately, in this business, do acquire some level of injuries. And whether or not you can train at your full potential is going to have a major impact on your progress. So you meet a lot of guys in their 40s and 50s perhaps, and they have injuries. If you met someone that said, look, I can't squat, my knees are ruined, I simply can't squat, I can't do heavy leg exercises, my shoulders hurt, I can't do overhead pressing exercises, I can't do any type of a bench type exercise, that's going to seriously impact on your progress if you are injured. Someone who was injury free, you have a huge advantage with progressing forward regardless of your age. The third criteria that I would be looking at would be that individual's willingness to look at hormonal manipulation. I think it's fair to say that you don't need to use a lot of drugs. I'm a very big believer in modesty in all things, but the reality is that the hormonal composition of a 52-year-old man is not ideal for bodybuilding purposes. Having said that, as long as you're prepared to take some moderate amount of hormonal adaptation, then really what we're not talking about here is a 52-year-old man. If you have the testosterone levels of a 25-year-old man, if you're producing HGH at significantly above normal range, and these types of compounds are being used, and quite honestly, you don't have the biological age of a 52-year-old guy. I'm 49 years old. I use these compounds, and I consider myself to have a biological age of someone in excess of 25 naturally. The levels that I use are not huge, but they're certainly not within normal range. And the final thing, I suppose, would the criteria that I'd be looking at is how serious is the individual. And a significant number of my clients are 40-year-old plus executives, and quite honestly, their goals are to put on a small amount of lean muscle mass and get a six-pack. That's their goals, unashamedly. If someone came to me and said, look, I'm not that serious about this business, and I just want to get in shape, do I think they're going to, suddenly, put on mass by mistake, as it were? And the answer is no, regardless of your age. If you want to put on a serious amount of size in this business, I'm talking like 20, 25, 30 pounds of muscle, it takes a commitment. It takes an adoption of this lifestyle in every respect, in terms of nutrition, in terms of training, in terms of supplementation, in terms of recovery. So, if you came across an individual that said, look, for all intents and purposes, I'm, not at my genetic potential. For all intents and purposes, I have no major injuries that prevent me from training at capacity. I am prepared to look at hormonal, compound use. Yes, that's something that I'm prepared to look at, and I'm serious. So if you met an individual with those four criteria, absolutely, there's absolutely no reason that someone that meets those criteria can't set a goal for themselves of 1 pound of lean muscle gain per month, month on month, at least for 2 years. And when you sit back and think about it, that might not sound like a great deal, but it's 24 pounds of muscle in 2 years. And if you took anyone, regardless of their age, and went ahead and put 24 pounds of lean muscle in their body, that's a significant gain. So I don't believe that age is a consequence here. The reality is that there are some limitations that very often come with age, injuries, and these types of issues. And so it's the injuries potentially that are going to hold you back, not the age itself. I hope that helps. Great question. Thanks very much for your time. Sawadee ka.